Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very warm good morning. Let's begin with the roundup of this week's activities. Uh, we begin with the uh, Right to Self-Determination Day for the people of Jammu and Kashmir that was celebrated on the 5th of this month. Uh, the date marks the adoption of the United Nations Security Council resolution on Jammu and Kashmir on 5th of January 1949, um, uh, which basically uh, enshrines that the people of Jammu and Kashmir have the right to determine their own future through a free and impartial plebiscite under the auspices of the United Nations. The international law recognizes the right to self determination as a cornerstone of the principle enshrined in the UN Charter. The Kashmiri people have been denied this right by India for over 4 decades. The illegal occupation of Jammu and Kashmir by India stands as a stark tragedy of our time. The people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir continue to endure systemic repression, widespread human rights violations, and denial of their fundamental rights and dignity. India has made consistent efforts to silence the genuine leadership of the Kashmiri people and muzzle the media. The number of Kashmiri political prisoners is ever increasing, in prison is ever increasing, and number of political activities have been outlawed by the authorities. The profiling and harassment of innocent Kashmiris, arbitrary detentions, and the so-called cordon and search operations have become a norm in the occupied territory. Thousands of Kashmiri leaders and members of the civil society in IIO J&K are imprisoned. Musarrat Alam, Shabir Ahmed Shah, Asiya Andrabi, Dr. Qasim Faktu, Advocate Abdul Qayyum, Fahmida Sufi, and many others have endured decades of incarceration. Yasin Malik stand convicted after a sham trial. Khurram Parvez and journalist Irfan Mehraj languish in jail on account of reprisals by the Indian occupation authorities. Indian illegal and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019 represent a blatant attempt to consolidate the illegal occupation through demographic engineering of IIO J&K. These matters are designated to systemically transform the Kashmiri people into a disenfranchised community in their own homeland, in clear violation of international law and principles of self determination. Despite enduring decades of oppression and countless sacrifices, the Kashmiri people have remained resolute in their just struggle to achieve their right against Indian occupation. Pakistan will continue to extend its unwavering moral, political, and diplomatic support to the Kashmiri people in their just struggle for the right to self determination. The second important development, ladies and gentlemen, during the visit was the Deputy Prime Minister visit to China and the seventh round of the strategic dialogue. The joint communique issued after this, you must have seen. This dialogue was held in Beijing on 4th of January 2026. The joint communique is a comprehensive document summing up the discussions on entire spectrum of Pakistan-China relations in wide-ranging areas, including strategic and political cooperation, as well as cooperation on defense and security, economy, trade, investment, cultural, people-to-people exchange, and international and regional issues of shared interest. The two sides reaffirmed their unyielding support to each other on issues concerning their core interest. Uh, Pakistan reaffirmed firm commitment to one China principle and reiterated that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. Pakistan firmly supports efforts of China to achieve national reunification and on issues concerning Xinjiang, Xizang, Hong Kong, and the South China Sea. China reiterated its steadfast support to Pakistan to safeguard its sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity. China commended the comprehensive measures taken by Pakistan to combat terrorism and fully recognizes the significant contribution and huge sacrifices that Pakistan has made in combating terrorism over many years. The two sides agreed to further align their development plans and priorities and build on the upgraded version 2.0 of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is pioneer project of the Belt and Road Initiative. The two sides emphasized the importance of Asian regional order underpinned by the United Nations Charter, the international law, and the basic norms governing international relations. They reiterated opposition to any unilateral actions and reaffirmed the significance of maintaining peace and stability in South Asia and necessity of resolving outstanding disputes through dialogue and consultations. The Pakistani side briefed the Chinese side on its position and latest developments of the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. China reiterated that Jammu and Kashmir dispute is a leftover from the history and should be properly and peacefully resolved in accordance with the UN Charter, relevant UN Security Council resolutions, and bilateral agreements. The two sides expressed readiness to conduct transboundary water resources cooperation under the principle of equality and mutual benefit, and emphasized that imperative of fulfilling international legal obligations. The significance of the maintenance of international and regional security and strategic stability was reiterated. The two sides expressed readiness to continue leveraging the China, Afghanistan, Pakistan trilateral foreign ministers dialogue and the China, Bangladesh, Pakistan cooperation mechanism to deliver new outcomes. The two sides agreed to keep in close consultations and communication on the Afghan issue. The two sides called on for more visible and verifiable actions to dismantle and eliminate all terrorist organizations based in Afghanistan, which continue to pose serious threats to regional peace and global security, and prevent terrorist organizations from using the Afghan territory for terrorism against any other country and to endanger any other third country. Ladies and gentlemen, this week the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Senator Mohammad Ishaq Dar continued to have a number of telephone calls with his counterparts from other countries. On 6th January, he held a telephonic conversation with Foreign Minister of Myanmar, U Than Shaw, and reviewed current and level of bilateral relations. With the Foreign Minister of Indonesia, Mr. Sugiarno, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister reviewed the state of Pakistan-Indonesia relations, development in Somalia, and efforts for lasting peace in Gaza, and they agreed to maintain close contacts on these issues. Subsequently, with the Foreign Minister of Egypt, Badr Ahmad Mohammed Abdul Atteh, the DPM reviewed current regional situation and reaffirmed commitment to enhance bilateral cooperation in the areas of mutual interest and continue engagement on key regional issues. With Bangladesh Foreign Advisor Mr. Tawheed Hussain, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister reviewed bilateral relations as well as recent developments in Asia and the Middle East. With the Foreign Minister of Malaysia, Muhammad bin Haji Hassan, the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister reviewed the state of bilateral relations and exchanged views on recent regional developments, including the situation in the Middle East, where both sides underscored the importance of continued consultations and agreed to remain in close contact. With the Foreign Minister of Turkey, Hakan Fidan, the DPM discussed the evolving regional situation and enhanced bilateral cooperation in areas such as trade, technology, tourism, and IT. And with the Foreign Minister of UAE, Mr. Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the DPM exchanged views on current regional situation and expressed satisfaction over the positive trajectory and improvement in regional situation. The DPM-FM appreciated the dialogue and diplomacy that has resulted in tangible outcomes on the ground. With Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan, the DPM twice held telephone conversations this week. He welcomed the Saudi Foreign Ministry's statement regarding Yemen and appreciated efforts of all sides to resolve the regional situation amicably. The DPM also stressed that all concerned in the region must avoid any escalatory move and advised to resolve the issues through dialogue and diplomacy for for the sake of regional peace and stability. And finally, the Minister of Economy of Azerbaijan, Mikhail Jabarov, held a telephone discussion with the Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, basically on the realization of the Azerbaijan's investment of US dollar 2 billion in Pakistan. The DPM underscored the importance of high-level cooperation in areas of mutual interest, and it was agreed to finalize the mechanism in this regard, allowing Azerbaijani investment in the identified sectors of the Pakistan economy. With this, I conclude my opening remarks and open the floor for